feel like when there's so much going on around us that is incongruent with the way we would love to be, just being, and that zone that we get into. I don't know about you, but if ever I'm in a creative zone, the world around me is very much influences that and can easily change. You know, if something happens or if I'm in a situation that doesn't feel safe and doesn't feel, I don't know, I've got particular areas and particular people that I don't want to be around. Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you think that maybe this overthinking culture, the fact that there are so many of us who get to this state of overthinking comes from the noise that's outside of us, and that that sort of dictates and has been dictating what we are to be doing or not to be doing from about the time that we became aware of that noise?
100%. That's what it is. And it's up to us, like you said. Is it Shoshannah?
Oh, Bryn, Shoshannah, but yeah, most of them call me Bryn.
Bryn?
Yeah.
Bryn. Yeah, it's really about being able to tap into your higher level of self. And how do we get there? Right? It's like, for me personally, I can only speak for myself. I always only speak for myself. Unless I'm a voice for Indigenous people, then I speak for all people. Or if I'm a voice for, here I'm going to speak for myself. I have made the decision to have no alcohol, no drugs, no tobacco, no vices or crutches, really. I love coffee, but I drink decaffeinated coffee. Yeah. I really have nothing to stimulate me other than life, other than true happiness, like seeing people smile, hugging my grandchildren, being out in nature, like I'm truly connected to the here and the now. And I think that's the most important thing that we can do, is to stay grounded in this moment and to feel our feet, like right now, just to feel. I'm taking my shoes off. I don't know if you can.
No.
But even just feel, imagine that your feet right now are connected to the earth, because in some way we are. Mm-hmm. And imagine that our feet are roots and we're going deep into the earth. And you imagine the ancestors that walked this land, and imagine the care and attention that they gave to this place so that we could be here today. That's the place where we should be coming from. Erase all the noise. Be aware of what's happening in our environment, in our world, in our nations, and be present in the moment and do what we can do today that are like things that we can do today as a human race to sustain this planet so that our grandchildren's grandchildren can enjoy the childhoods that we've had and the nature that the way we know it. That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah. Would you say that's like the part of the process of decolonization then? And sort of like, I remember you described it as like breaking boundaries and more. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, it really is about decolonization and getting back to the place, our original state of being. And people, I think people just become complacent, and I think people think that it's not our problem. That happened a long time ago. When we talk about the children that have been found recently, whose bodies have been hidden in the ground. Let's talk about that for just a minute. Yeah. Like, people are still showing up and saying, I didn't do that. You know, like, why am I suffering for this? I didn't do this. But the fact is, we don't want to hold the people of today accountable for it. What we need to do is know the truth, see the evidence, and move forward as one voice to not allow it to continue happening, because it's still happening. It's still happening. There's still children and family services that are taking Indigenous children from their families. They've finally just enforced a law where you cannot take a child from a mother as soon as they're born in a hospital, because that was happening. My very own cousin had his baby taken away from his wife because they're Indigenous and they have trauma and they need support. So rather than surround them with community and give them that support, no, they just take the baby. That is genocide. That's what's happening, and it's still happening. So how do we stand up together and unite ourselves as the human race, regardless of ethnicity, and change this?
Absolutely. Do you think music's part of that then? Like, I wanted to bring that in too, because you actually have a song about the residential school system, right? And so is that part of your work then? Oh, isn't there an organization I just read about too that you're associated with that sounded, it's CARE or something? Canadian Artists for Reconciliation is
Yeah. I'm a supporter of them for sure. There are a couple of non-Indigenous people. Actually, one of them is Indigenous, but he hasn't. I've been encouraging him to honor his ancestors and to claim his ancestry, because that's another thing. I mean, that's another conversation about, you know, just there's some shame associated with being Indigenous back in the day, and it was hidden. You know, people don't talk about it because it was, you know, the discrimination, the racism that has happened in this country, in this world, against Indigenous people for centuries is not something that people want to talk about. And especially if you come from a family of where, say a parent had an had an affair, I guess is the way to say it, with an Indigenous woman and had a child, but it was a secret. And then, you know, like, that happens. It happens all the time, where there are people who have Indigenous ancestry who they can feel their connection to the culture, but they don't have a voice or the knowledge or the courage to be able to pursue it and whatnot. And the reason I think for that nowadays is that there's so many people who have abused that privilege. And there's this term called pretendians, and people are being called out about it. And those people are false. Like, they're not Indigenous, but they want to be Indigenous for some reason. And so they live this life, like this false identity and benefiting and, so anyways, what I'm trying to say is that, when people have Indigenous ancestry, and I think they feel a little bit afraid to claim it because maybe they've never claimed it in their lifetime. But the way I look at it is, if you look at, let's look at ourselves, and then we look at our parents, and then their parents, and then their parents, and their parents. If you were to move one of those people out of the picture, and they're an Indigenous person especially, you wouldn't exist. And you need to honor that. You need to honor that ancestor because they cared for this land. They prayed for you. They prayed for the future of their families and generations. And I think it's just so powerful. So I always encourage people, if you have Indigenous ancestry, be proud of that. If you have white skin and blue eyes and you're Indigenous, claim it. That's my opinion. I'll take it back because I did go on a bit of a tangent. One of my friends who started the CARE, Canadian Artists Reconciliation Education, has Indigenous ancestry and one of them doesn't. But it's just these two guys who are tired of just like, I guess, lip service. And so they're doing something about it. So they've created this incredible group that is what their vision is to educate people through music, non-Indigenous people through music, so that they can use their platform and their stages and their fan base and whatnot to continue this conversation, because this has to continue. We need momentum. We can't just keep having these things turn up in history of Canada and then get it brushed under the rug again. We need to continue this conversation, and that's what they're doing. And they're having, I believe it's monthly webinars. And what they do is they seek out Indigenous people who are like the knowledge holders, the people who have earned, you know, their place in society because of the work that they do, and around, you know, residential school legacy projects, and around murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls, around the whole even child and family services situation, so that, you know, Canadians are given the right information and they're being educated, because the government is not doing it, the schools aren't doing it. So it's taking community to really step up and become the allies, and to become the teachers.
You made me think of, so I'm reading a book called Born Both by Hida Valoria, and they're an intersex individual, and talking about androgyny, and, you know, there being more than one gender, and the idea that if you don't claim one part of yourself, you lose that part of yourself. So exactly what you're saying, like what she's saying, or they're saying, is that, you know, if they don't claim the masculine energy, that masculine energy will die. So it sort of makes me think too, yeah, the importance of claiming those parts of yourself, and recognizing that, we're like connected to everyone and everything, and how powerful that is. So I think it's so important that you're reaching people that way, and also through, like the oral tradition is so important, right? Do you feel like it's more powerful singing it than if you would like written a story about it? Like, do you think there's a difference between that way of accessing people?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Because music being that universal language, music being able to open up space in people's hearts that are otherwise closed. And I'll give you an example of that, is that I was doing a show, Kennedy, it was the show you opened.
Was it the Legion?
How ironic. Yes, it was the Legion show. The place was
Cool.
Yes. The
Okay,
place was
go to the bathroom.
packed.
I'll be right
Yes.
back.
Go.
Sorry.
Do it. We don't want any pee on any chairs during this podcast.
No.
Okay. So I had a full band at the time. I just was starting out. Our band didn't even have a name, but I had picked up a bunch of artists who had been a part of other bands and had disassembled, and they were amazing, incredible artists here in Prince George. And we got on the stage and we did a bunch of like original songs with some cover songs, and I was trying to fill up like the whole, I think it was 2 45-minute sets or something like that. It was a lot. And then you know what Allegiance like, there's just like, you know, drinking and playing pool and meat draws, like pausing you so they could draw for the meat, and that was a little bit weird. But so what happened was I had really grappled with bringing my hand drum. Like these are, where is it? I'm on a different angle here.
Cool.
Like these are like my hand drums, right? And I that's a whole other podcast if you ever want to talk about drumming.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I had my drum with me, and I wanted to do some traditional songs, but I didn't know if it was appropriate, because also there's protocols around being, you know, having a drum and the way I've been taught. And so I thought, oh, you know what? I'm going to give it a try and we'll see how it goes. And so I brought my hand drum with me, but I was very aware of always where my hand drum was. And I had my hand drum in a case and whatnot. I'm going to refer to this drum as a she, because they drums have spirit, and this drum was once probably, I'm thinking, a deer, which had probably many little babies. So there's generations. So, you know, this drum has spirit. The tree that is in the frame has spirit because it was once a standing, beautiful tree that gave us, you know, oxygen and whatnot. So we honor all of these things with the drum. So when I'm reluctant to bring my hand drum into an establishment where there's a lot of alcohol and who knows what else going on, and then I'm very aware of it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try it this time and see how it goes. So I brought my hand drum in with me. I knew where she was all the time, and I put her in a bag, and I took her out of the bag, and then I put her back in my car and such like that, like very mindful of my drum. But what happened was the place was packed, and there was like all these draws happening, and it was just really super busy. I think they were all there to see Kennedy, actually. And so I got up to sing after doing like about, I don't know, 4 or 5 covers. Like really upbeat songs that were danceable, because everybody wants to dance, right? And then I decided in the set, okay, this is where I'm going to put my drum song. And so, and my whole band had a 6-piece band, cello, mandolin, guitar, like drums, upright bass, like it was fabulous. Mm-hmm. And so anyways, we just sort of had this moment where I turned around, grabbed my drum, and I looked out at the audience, and it was loud party environment, like pool balls, like smashing around, and it was loud. And I thought, okay, let's see how this goes. So I grabbed my drum and I stood up to the mic, and the people who were standing in the front, who were actually there as fans of not just myself, but of the whole band, because it was the Black Spruce Bog Band, and who are no longer together as a band, but they had a huge following. They became my backup band.
Oh, wow.
And there was also Power Duo, who were also like had their own following. So I had all of these amazing people in my band, and it was amazing. So anyways, up to the microphone with my drum, and I started to drum. And the sound of my drum, I'm not sure if we can get, yeah. And then my voice. It cut through everything. And there was this hush that fell over the room. And people just stood there with their beers and drinks in their hands, and the pool playing stopped, and people were just like, and you know why? It's that universal drumbeat that we all know in our DNA, because it was the first sound we've ever heard at the moment of conception with the heartbeat. Our mother's heartbeat. It's that heartbeat. And the drum represents that. And the drum is medicine. And the drum summons all of our ancestors into the now, into this place. And it will cut through any place. And it reaches in to people's bodies because of the vibration, because, you know, everybody was like, You know, we're all made up of vibrations. We know that. And everybody vibrates at different levels. Like, I have a very calm, low vibration. And I know that about myself. Some people are a little more high strung and they're just like, you know, bzzz, all the time. And you can feel that. That's why when we go into places and we're, you know, we meet somebody new and maybe it doesn't work out, is because our vibrations are too different and it just, we can't quite connect, right? Well, what happens is when with drumming and singing, there's a vibration and a power and an energy that cuts into the very core of who we are as people. And it's powerful. And I know that for a fact because I've witnessed it time and time again. I witness it for myself. The minute I start to drum, my vibration becomes one with this drum. And it calms my energy. And it keeps me in the moment. I can't go anywhere else. I'm right here, right now. And that's the power of a drum. And knowing that it's with spirit, I'm connecting to the land. I'm connecting to that ancestral memory, to where this deer once roamed, to where this tree once grew, and all through that lineage. It's powerful. So after the Legion show, there was this big burly guy came up, like lots of people came up to me, but I remember this one fellow in particular. I don't remember his name, but he was a big guy, had his mug of beer in his hand, and he walked up to me and he had tears in his eyes. And he said, "I don't know what you did, lady, but you hit me in a place I didn't even know I had." And that is like, if it was, you know, if the whole show would have been a flop and all I had was that one moment, it would have been everything. But the whole show was amazing. Right, Kennedy?
Because you were both there.